So you want to break into project management, but technically have no experience. So how do you break in? Well, stay tuned because in this video, I'll be talking all about that. Hello, YouTube family. Thank you so much for tuning in. Welcome to my channel. I'm Christina and this is Cultivated Chrissy. Here I'll be sharing all my tips and tricks to my PMs and my aspiring PMs looking to enhance their knowledge in the project management field, master the role of a PM, and truly elevate in this career because there is so much opportunity now. How do you get into the project management field with no experience? How are you going to break in? Well, I will be sharing 6 tips today on how to get your foot in the door and break into the project management field. Let me start off by saying that you probably have more experience than you think you do, right? Once you understand what project management is, then it really is all about perspective and how you frame things, right? But stay tuned because I'll be getting into all of that in this video. Make sure you stick around. So research indicates that employers will need to fill nearly 2.2 million new project-oriented jobs through 2027. So like I said, so much opportunity, right? These roles are currently and will continue to be in high demand, right? So it's great to get in now, learn, hone your skills, master them, right? And then elevate in the coming years. So to really frame how I came up with these tips, I wanted to talk about how I got into the project management field, right? What did I do to get to where I am today? Currently, I'm 29 years old and I am a director of project management in the healthcare sector. Now, that could be early for a lot of people, right? And so I really wanted to give you guys some context as to how I did that, what I found to be the key things that work time and time again to get me to where I am today. The keyword that I think really describes how I've made it to where I am today, and what you'll find is a recurring theme throughout my story is initiative, right? No matter where I was, I made sure to take initiative and I always sought to provide value. So let's get into the story briefly, okay? So college, okay, let's start there. If this is where you are today, right, and you're aspiring for a job in project management when you get out, make sure you immerse yourself in that experience, right? When I was in college, I joined several clubs and organizations, and I wasn't just a member, right? I became an e-board member, right? A contributing member of that club. And I learned so many management and project management skills from those different clubs and organizations, right? Things that I use even today. So you want to make sure you immerse yourself into that experience, right? We threw so many parties, we threw speaking engagements, panel discussions, all types of things, right? And those are valuable skills. Those are all projects, by the way, right? And so I was able to use those skills to land me my very first job. So I graduated and I landed my first job outside of healthcare, right? It was in a middle school. It is important to mention that this was a startup middle school and it had only been open for like 2 to 3 years prior to me coming there. So definitely a startup, and that definitely has something to do with these tips. That's a major key, okay? But I'll get into that. So landing my first job, I was an academic program coordinator. And one of the key things that I did there that really demonstrate the initiative, right, is one day I had been speaking with the principal, right? And she mentioned that the kids fight a lot, right? They don't know how to resolve conflict. They don't know how to talk to each other. Things that middle schoolers do, right? Right. But we wanted to figure out how to help them resolve their conflicts in a more conducive way, right? And so I remembered that in elementary school, I was a peer mediator, right? And so I volunteered to implement a peer mediation program. Now, this was a major project because I had to develop the curriculum. I had to develop the application process for, getting peer mediators, right? Getting the teachers involved, getting recommendations from them, interviewing the students. Once I found the students, I had to develop the curriculum and train them. So there was a lot involved in that, and it was a major project. But it allowed me to show initiative, and it also gave me the opportunity to then do other projects from there, right? It definitely opened those doors for me. So first job out of college, already doing projects. And that was a major one. So then I moved on to finally get a role within public health. That's what I went to school for. So I worked at a major health system in New York, right? It was a large health system. Now, even though this was a large health system, it's important to note that this was a brand new department within the health system. So again, a startup environment. We had been given a grant to, put on different programs within the state as part of this department, right? We were tasked with reducing hospital utilization by 25%, and there were several projects that needed to be done in order to achieve that goal, right? So I came in as a community liaison, eventually went to a reporting specialist, and then once I got my PMP, I became a reporting and project manager. Again, the key here was taking initiative, right? Brand new department. So I really found joy in creating structures where there wasn't any, right? Finding the gaps, filling them because there were tons of gaps, right? We're brand new. And eventually I became even known for that in the office, to the point where they were even putting it on my annual review, like Christina's gonna find gaps and fill them, right? And every year I would be able to list out the things that I found were gaps and filled them in the organization, right? It can be small things like creating directories, trackers, templates for things, to implementing full-scale projects, right? So definitely providing value in this process through taking initiative. So one day, same department, at this time I was a reporting specialist, and I had been finding gaps and filling them, right? Doing several projects throughout the office. And one day I was tasked with helping one of the other project managers in the office with a Salesforce implementation, right? And she was a PMP, so she definitely had the skills, knew what this was. At this time, I never really heard of the term project management as like a career. Like, I didn't fully understand that this was a whole field. I just knew that I loved to do projects, right? But I didn't fully understand it as a field. And so one day she told me, like, you would be great as a project manager. Like, you should absolutely do this. And technically you're already doing it. And then she handed me her PMBOK. First time I saw that, realized, okay, there's a whole institution for project management. And I was in love with it. She showed me her Gantt chart, girl, and everything. Absolutely loved it. And the rest was honestly history. From that point, I went on to convince my organization to sponsor my PMP certification for me. And then I got the promotion from there as well to become a reporting and project manager. So again, taking initiative opens those doors, creates those opportunities. And that was kind of my introduction into the project management field as a career. So I eventually went on to my next job. I started as a project manager, and again, went there, took initiative, created value, with the goal of really being an irreplaceable asset to them, right? And once I was able to do that, that opened the door for the promotion where I became a director, and there was honestly no arguments, no back and forth. I got exactly what I wanted because I had been providing value, taking initiative. And so again, that's the theme here. And so if you want to know more about my journey, make sure you comment down below. Let me know what questions you have. I can also do a video, that's more in depth talking about all of that. So let me know in the comments below. But that's my journey, and that's how I was able to formulate the 6 tips that I'm about to share with you right now. So using my own story and experiences, right, I'm going to be giving you those 6 tips, right? Tip number 1, if you haven't guessed it already, it's about taking initiative and creating value, right? Wherever you are right now in your existing role, whether you're a project manager or not, I want you to take that initiative, solve a problem, okay? And it doesn't have to be this full-scale implementation. It could be something small, a tracker, a guide, a directory of some sort, right? Doing something to make a process more efficient, right? And you want the people in your organization to feel that value that you provided, a weight lifted off their shoulders, something that can help them work easier, right? So think about those opportunities in your organization right now, and take the initiative to fill that, right? You want to create the path towards more experience for yourself. And again, once you do that, the doors will open for you. So tip number 2, we're gonna make some resume edits. We want to take your current and your previous roles, and whether they're project management related or not, and formulate them into more project management related activities, right? So you're gonna do that by thinking about what a project is, right? What is project management? This concept of taking something from beginning to end, creating a unique product, service, or result, right? Knowing that, and also knowing the 5 phases of the project lifecycle in its most basic form, right? Initiate, plan, execute, monitor and control, and close. Knowing that in its most basic form, right? We're gonna look at those activities and we're gonna reframe the language. And there are 2 documents that can help out with that. I'll mention that in a second. And make sure you subscribe, by the way, because in an upcoming video, I'll be talking about my top 10 key project management terms that every project manager needs to know. You're definitely not gonna wanna miss that. So again, make sure you go ahead and subscribe. But you're gonna wanna use those key terms. Now, 2 examples of how to reframe things, right? The first example, one of my jobs, this was the school, I had to keep track of staff that would call out and find replacements for them, right? I didn't just say on the resume, track staff PTO requests and find replacements daily, right? I could have said that, but I made it bigger, okay? I made it bigger. I added in project management key terms, right? Those kind of key buzzwords that show leadership, that show initiative. And so this is what I said instead, right? I said, formulated and managed the execution of the daily staffing process. There was no process, right, for how to do this when I started, right? They gave me the number that I needed to call, but they didn't really define a process for me, right? So I formulated and managed the execution of the daily staffing process. I developed a centralized system for collection and processing of staff PTO requests, right? So again, making this bigger, adding some fluff, really being a wordsmith, okay? So that's example number 1. Example number 2, right? I talked about creating the peer mediation program at the school, right? I didn't just say started a peer mediation program for middle school students, right? Could have said that. It's not really giving me anything, right? I want to show the organization the value in that. Like what value, what pain point did that really fill, right? So I said I instituted the peer mediation program, defined the program scope and standards through stakeholder interviews, right? That's just kind of one piece, one component of what I did. And I've, of course, added to that. But again, using those project management words that show the leadership, that show the taking of initiative, adding more fluff, making it bigger, okay? It is the same thing. I'm not lying about what I did, right? I did those things. But we're just we're making it bigger, okay? So 2 examples. So the 2 documents that can help with wordsmithing, right? The resume. One is PMI's process groups. It has the 5 phases of the life cycle, the 13 knowledge areas, and 49 different process groups within it. So in that, you want to review this document. There are a lot of recurring terms in there. That's the first indicator that these are words that you should be using, right? Things like stakeholder, things like plan, control, scope. You want to use those words, right? Define, monitor. Use those words that are recurring most often. That's an indicator to you that these are some key terms that you want to use. Secondly, are the action words from Bloom's taxonomy. I discovered this document a while ago, and I have to say, like, it absolutely changed the game for me. It helped to really elevate my writing skills, right? Taking it up several notches. It just had so much more words in my repertoire that I can use, right? And so I love the create column. If you download it, you'll see it's perfect for things like the resume. And so you want to make sure you use these 2 documents. I will link them below. Absolutely free. Just press the link, press download, and the documents will pop right up. You don't have to enter anything. But definitely download that. You want to make these resume updates. It's absolutely vital, right? This is the first thing that people are going to see. And a lot of these jobs, when you are applying, they use an automated system to kind of pick up resumes based on some keywords. I don't know if you know that, but sometimes that happens, right? And so you want to make sure that you're using some of these keywords so that your resume can get picked up. So you've been taking initiative, right? Creating value. You made your resume edits, and now you've landed an interview. So how do you prepare for that? This is tip number 3. So the interviewer is going to ask you situational based questions as well as technical project management questions, right? The ratio of that is going to be different based on the organization, but expect those 2 types of questions for the project management role. In both cases, when you're answering the questions, you want to make sure that, again, you're using those project management key terms, right? Just like in your resume, when you were being a wordsmither and reframing things, making it bigger, really talking about the value that you created in that step, not just the step itself, right? Or the task itself. We're going to do the same thing when vocalizing that to the interviewer, right? We still want to be a wordsmither in that process. So when I'm preparing for an interview, I like to look up the questions that are most likely to be asked, right? Both, again, within the situational and technical space. I want to make sure that I'm, writing down some questions in both areas. And what I like to do is fully write out an answer, okay? If you know DISC, I'm a C type personality. I like to be prepared. I do not like to be caught off guard, okay? So I will write out every word, okay? That's me. So you want to make sure, for me, what has worked, I write out the full answer to the question. Again, making sure that I'm wordsmithing, right? Because that way, I don't have to try to think about this wordsmithing on the spot, right? I'm writing it out, and then I try to, memorize that. I practice it, memorize it, right? Think about alternative questions. If they ask it kind of like this, I know that I can use that particular answer, right? So that I can kind of pick from it, because it won't be exactly what you practice. Sometimes it will be, and that's a great surprise, but sometimes it won't, right? So you want to look up kind of alternatives to that, fully write out your answer, make sure you're using the wordsmithing technique, and make sure you're practicing to prepare yourself. As far as where I get the questions from, I love using Glassdoor. Glassdoor is great as well because, if you're interviewing at a certain organization, sometimes that organization is up on Glassdoor, and people who have interviewed for the exact position that you're going for have written out some of the questions that were asked in the interview. So that's definitely what you want to look at, and practice those questions, write out your answers to those questions. So that's really how I prepare. Foolproof way for me to have a great interview. I know that once I make it to the resume, or once I make it to the interview phase, they're gonna offer me the job. Okay, it's happening. And again, stay tuned, because if you guys are interested, I could tell you how I got 3 highly competitive salary job offers within 30 days from 3 different companies, okay, all within the healthcare sector. Absolutely amazing. But again, a strong interview, a strong resume, being that wordsmither, these things are really important. And so you want to make sure you do that, okay? So tip number 4, okay, when you're applying to jobs, you can either apply to smaller companies, right, startups or startup organizations, or larger companies, right? Both provide different experiences and different opportunity, right? And both are great, right? For me, and what I have found as a great strategy to be able to elevate quickly, to have a lot of opportunity to learn and grow and create value, is to work in a startup type of environment, right? And so I did that most of the time. Again, there were some organizations that, one of the organizations was a startup department, but in a larger organization. So I was still able to work with other project managers and things like that and kind of work, learn from them and that kind of thing. But lots of opportunity in a startup, right? I already explained that in the other examples, but lots of opportunity there, okay? So I think that that's key. Number 5, on the flip side, right? You can work for the larger organization, right? Now for this, still some opportunities there to create value, of course, right? It may be harder because within the startup, right, they may not have certain structures or processes yet, and you can kind of easily pick those out, define them, and start to, solve a problem. But for the larger organizations, a lot more is going to be in place there, right? But that doesn't mean things are running smoothly, right? What are the pain points? Really, you're going to have to talk to some people, okay? Have some conversations, hold some interviews, and really try to immerse yourself in the organization to uncover what those gaps are and how you can create value, okay? But the opportunities are there. You're just gonna have to look harder to find them, okay? Now, in terms of roles for this, gonna have to come in more entry level if you don't have as much experience, okay? But hopefully by now it looks like you do, because we reframed some tasks, right? We're not gonna keep it super duper simplified. We're gonna make things bigger. We're gonna wordsmith, okay? Still keeping the integrity that you did do these tasks, right? But we're going to reframe those things, right? And so if you've done that, you're definitely going to be able to get some of these entry-level positions. Now, some of what these roles look like, you'll see things like project coordinator, junior project manager. In healthcare, they'd like to do project management 1 or project manager 1, project manager 2, right? Go to different levels. I think they also do that in the government sector as well. So project associate, implementation manager, right? Different types of titles, but those are kind of the more entry-level project management jobs, okay? So definitely you can apply to those as well. So whether startup organization or a larger organization, there's still opportunity to create value, take initiative, right? And be able to elevate in your career through those organizations. Also, the benefit of working with a larger organization is just better benefits, okay? Healthcare benefits, all types of things, time off, all of that. So that's going to be better in a larger organization as well. So definitely something to consider. So next, okay, this is tip number 6. What I think you can really do to help you grow and learn more about project management and really get the experience is volunteering, okay? Now with this, it's a lot more lighthearted, right? These people aren't looking for you to have, this insane resume with all these projects on it in order to give you the job. And you can absolutely do this alongside whatever job you're doing to start to immerse yourself in the field, see if you even like it, okay? And, start to get the experience and learn. learn. You can definitely find volunteer opportunities on websites like volunteermatch.org, your governmental websites, whether it's city, state, county, local groups in your, local groups in your city. Also things like your church. If you're going to church, you can do some project management things there. So definitely lots of opportunities to volunteer. And again, they're not looking for this long, extensive resume, but you can learn from there and see if you like it. And just like I said, when I was talking about college, where you join these organizations, even though they're not paying you, okay, you want to fully immerse yourself into the role, right? And really try to create value for yourself, even, for them, of course, but also for yourself, right? Really stretch yourself and try to, do some big things, make some big moves in these different organizations. And again, those can lead to doors opening, because some of the people that you're volunteering with, especially if it's in government and things like that, right, that can open bigger doors. So you want to make sure that you're doing that as well, right? That's hopefully a great tip for you guys. So you can definitely put these opportunities on your resume as well. Even if you're not getting paid, they're not going to ask you how much money you're making from these things, or you're not going to write that on your resume, right? But you could put that you're a project manager at this organization using the same techniques as we talked about before. This can only add to what your experience looks like on that resume. All right, so those are the 6 tips. Make sure that you stick around, you subscribe, because in my next video, I'm going to be giving you my top 10 basic project management tips, okay? If you just landed your project management job and you're like, what do I do next, right? How can I be successful in this role? If you do these 10 things, okay, you will have success in this role, right? I'm giving you those major key items. So make sure you stick around, you subscribe, you like and comment. I really want to create a community for you guys where I can share a lot of this information, a lot of the things that I've learned throughout the years that have really helped. So make sure you stick around, subscribe, and I will see you guys in my next video. All right? Thank you so much for coming. See you in the next one.